Airbus is a joint European venture consisting of more than 20 aviation and aerospace companies. The head of communications for Airbus tells us how difficult it was to find common ground for the interests in Germany, France, Britain, and Spain.
Our history in the past 40 years runs parallel to that of the integration of Europe as a whole. There were lots of ups and downs, and on the whole we made great progress. Today we're the main, and indeed only, rival of our great American competitor.
So could Airbus be a model for the European Union? We put that question to the Institute for International Economics in Hamburg, where Professor Henning Vöppel told us, yes, definitely. Europe, he says, needs a joint economic policy.
I think Europe needs to take the next step in terms of integration. Political conditions have certainly not gotten easier, so we need more integration. We need a stable and at the same time democratic Europe. It's not gotten any easier to reach consensus in the European Parliament. There's a lot to do, and politicians are challenged to tackle the basic problems.
Okay, but what are the basic problems? One is certainly education and employment. The experts in Hamburg recommend that educational qualifications be accepted EU-wide. That would require unified standards, and it would encourage mobility. Mobility is already a given for Airbus employees. Camille Thieffroy, for example, comes from France and works in Germany.
I see myself as a European. I could live in England, France, Germany, or elsewhere. It doesn't matter where. I'd be happy.
But not all Europeans are young and mobile, able to follow work opportunities around the continent. The experts in Hamburg say that older Europeans with family ties need more support. Vöppel also points out that some EU countries do better than others economically, so the differences must be balanced out.
A first step could be to organize a kind of unemployment insurance on the European level. Contributions from all EU countries would go into a single European fund, which would get paid out in relation to how countries were doing economically. Germany might pay in more than it takes out, but in 5 years, Germany could be on the receiving side.
But a joint European economic policy would only work if everyone lives within their means. In the future, member states should no longer be allowed to run up debts that other members have to pay. The experts say countries should submit their national budgets to Brussels for approval.
Along with balancing mechanisms, we need the right to intervene in national politics. Put another way, certain responsibilities need to go to Brussels. Brussels needs to have a say in national decisions. We have to accept the fact that we have a European economic policy. So Brussels has to have a certain authority, including the democratically legitimated right to intervene in national policy.
Europe also needs to continue joint investments. For example, the continent is crisscrossed by thousands of kilometers of railroad tracks and highways, but more are needed. European infrastructure has to be expanded. That also applies to power grids.
That's not just a matter for the private sector. Maintaining networks of this sort are a public responsibility. At present, networks are organized nationally. We have a long way to go before we have European transportation and energy networks.
Joint investment is standard operating practice at Airbus. It's the only way to finance research and development.
In our sector, you have to have a European conglomerate. No one European country could maintain the basics for manufacturing airplanes. We can only do it together, and we do it extremely well, which is why we're successful.
In many respects, then, Airbus could serve as a model for how the EU could function better.